Hi, my name's Donovan, and I'm going to be taking you through the mobile sales and WMS training today. Just before I get started, can everyone just confirm that they can hear me clearly? If you can maybe just pop a message in the chat for me, and then I'll get started. Great. All right, so the agenda for today is just to run through the Palladium mobile application. It's obviously been designed from a mobile sales and warehouse management perspective. We've since included additional functionality, both from a manufacturing and a workshop side, as well as the ability to approve purchase orders directly through the mobile application. So I'm not going to have time to go through everything in detail, but I'll give you an overview of the application and then jump into some of the functionality. Right, so I'm just going to close off here quickly and jump directly into the mobile app. So I've AnyDesked into my device to show you what it looks like. So at first glance, when you log in, you'll see that you've got the ability to clock in as a user, okay? Start a break when you're taking lunch, and then clocking out when you leave in the afternoon. So this will give you the ability to track the mobile user's time for the day, and we can then generate reports on this as well using our mobile sales dashboard. Okay. From an icon perspective, we've got our SalesForce, which will take us through to everything a salesperson needs: the ability to generate a sales order, quote, freehand quote. Your drivers can capture PODs. You'll be able to submit expense claims as well. View and create customers, as well as link CRM activities directly from the mobile device. In our management section, we've got the ability to view performance dashboards. So if you have a look at them, it'll give you total revenue for the day, week, month, year, as well as custom date ranges that we can specify as well. We've also got the salesperson locator, which will allow you to track your salespeople and or drivers in real time on Google Maps using the mobile device. All right. You're also able to view a tracking history to view where your drivers or salespeople have been in the days before. This will also calculate the distance that has been traveled during the period as well. And then lastly, we've got the ability to do purchase order approval. So if there are any purchase requisitions and I'm a specified approver, they'll appear here and I can either approve or decline them from the screen. From a warehousing perspective, this is where we're able to do our bin transfers, warehouse transfers, GRV items into stock, do our stock picks, stock accounts, put away items, generate delivery advice. From a salesperson perspective, we can do inventory inquiries by item or by location to see if we have stock on hand. Manufacturing will allow us to transfer jobs from one work center to the next, as well as issue the relevant work in progress for each work center. Our procurement section allows us to generate purchase requisitions and purchase orders directly from the mobile application. And lastly, from a workshop management perspective, you're able to create quotations, process the jobs, issue the inventory out, and then view and create serviceable items at the same time. There is a feature from a sales perspective to allow users to be able to generate invoices from the mobile application, which has gone into QC in the past day and will be released in our next release on the mobile application. Right, so from a processing perspective, I'm going to show you how it interfaces with our live system. Okay, so when we go through our mobile, our Palladium database here, and we, as an example, are sitting in front of a customer and wish to create a quotation. Sorry, give me 1 second. I've just logged into the incorrect database here. Give me 1 second. All right, so I'll carry on from here. We're sitting in front of the customer and we want to generate a quotation. We would hit the little plus symbol in the top. and that will then open up the ability for us to start generating the quotation, right? So you'll see it'll generate the quotation number automatically. We would then have to select our customer. So it'll sync your customers directly from Palladium. We specify the customer. I'll say that we're doing this customer in this case. From a salesperson perspective, we can also then select the relevant salesperson. That could also be a mandatory field if required. Specify a reference number, okay? And then we would add the relevant items that we're quoting on. So you'll see that product images are, sorry about that. You'll see that product images sync directly from Palladium as well. So it makes it easy to identify the product. But in this case, we'll say that we're selling this micro trunking item here, okay? So at this point, we're able to specify the location that we're pulling this stock from, okay? The quantity will obviously pull through a price, discount percentage relevant to the customer, and then your tax, your relevant tax code, okay? You'll see that we've also got a view related items tab, which will show us any items that are related to this item, which is again set up in the inventory master file within Palladium. So we just click add, and it'll then add that item to the order. Under quote details, it'll give us our standard ability to specify the required date, confirm the shipping address. If we have predefined delivery methods, we can then select our delivery method here, which would calculate the cost. Again, we can double check our discounts and change discount percentages, provided we've given the user the permission to do so. And then we've got our customer information. So customer information will give us our customer's address, show us any open balances on the account, open orders, quotes, and any available credits if you specified a credit limit. When we want to email this out to a customer, we would then just specify our email address here, the body of the email, and we can send the quote directly to the customer from this screen. Lastly, on our files, we have the ability to either capture a photograph. So if I select capture photograph, it'll pop up and I can take the relevant picture, which will attach to that quote. We can add an attachment directly from our mobile device, or select signature and get the customer to sign to glass on the mobile device. So they would sign the quotation like that, and we would just then confirm it by clicking the button in the top right. This database is a little bit outdated, you can ignore that. What will happen now is the quote will synchronize with Palladium, and at the same time it will then pop up asking me if I'd like to email this, and I'm just going to say no, I don't want to email it out, and that's it, the quotation is done. Okay. The standard process would follow when it comes to converting a quote to an order. We can convert a quote into an order and get a customer to sign it, and so on and so forth. From a Palladium perspective, I'm just going to quickly log into a database that will sync with that. Give me 1 second. All right, so this will make a lot more sense now, right? So when we log into Palladium, you'll see that the very last quotation that we've done in this database, okay, will be the one I did for that specific client with the item I selected. And you'll notice that there's an attached file here, okay, which would be a signed POD with, the signed quote. You'll see that the signature's in the bottom left corner here. This includes a GPS coordinate, as well as a link to a Google map for the location. So every single document processed on the mobile application is date and time stamped with the GPS coordinates at the same time. Okay. All right. So if we then process this quote in the back end and it becomes an invoice, so we just simply convert that quote or any quote for that matter. Let me go through that process again for the people that just joined. All right. So if we do a sales order, we simply click on add. We select the customer. We're going to use Baywater Institute in this case. We can specify a salesperson and a reference number. we add the item. So in this case, we're going to do a chrome plated towel rack. We can specify our location, quantity that we're selling. I'm going to say 2 in this case, our tax code, and we just hit the add button. Next, we can jump to order details, confirm that our shipping address is correct, that our delivery method is correct. We can edit the shipping address if we need to. Jump to customer information, where it will give us account balances, open orders, quotes, or any available credit. From an email perspective, we can then email this directly to the customer. And lastly, either capture a photograph, attachment, or get the customer to sign. So in this case, we get the customer to sign, they click complete, and we're then done. So this is a salesperson on site, getting the customer to sign off an order, which will then be processed in the back office, invoiced out, and delivered. Okay, so now we've done our sales order, right? In Palladium, again, you'll notice that the very last sales order we did was for that Baywater Institute. There's the item we sold, and we've got our attached file here, which is the signed document that we just did with the GPS coordinates as well. So we've got a location attached to it. We can then convert that sales order to an invoice. So my date range is a little bit out here, so I'm just going to show you with one of these. So if we now invoicing an item, just going to say yes, and we then record it. Okay. What we would do is traditionally we would set up a QR code on the invoice. So when the driver delivers the item to the customer, he would be able to scan the QR code, which would sit somewhere on the invoice. Okay. So in this case, all I'm going to do is I'm going to take this invoice number here, okay, and I'm going to open it up in a mobile application. So if we go to capture POD, okay, we obviously don't have a QR code to scan now, so we're just going to copy this invoice number. Okay, so in this case, it is IN. And just to confirm that number, it is 22, right? Okay, so in general, you would scan this, but you can manually enter it as well. What will happen then is the POD for that specific invoice will be pulled up, okay? You would then confirm what's been delivered, click on order details, again, get the customer to sign. They would sign the POD when it's been delivered, and we would just confirm that. The power of this is that the POD will now automatically be attached to the invoice. So if we look at this invoice, you'll already notice that there's a little 1 that's appeared, which is the signed proof of delivery that we've just sent to the customer. And the advantage of this is really within Palladium, when we send our customer statements, right, we've got the ability to, number 1, include invoices, all overdue invoices or all invoices, and the PODs at the same time. So if I had to filter by only selected customers, and we say that specific one, it'll generate the statement, it'll generate the email that's going out to the customer, and that statement will include all overdue invoices, as well as the PODs that's been sent off to the customer at the same time. So if we have a look at there, we've got our statement, we've got our invoices, and the POD that's attached as well. So this will go out automatically rather than having to duplicate effort. The alternative way of handling PODs on Palladium is obviously through our POD management function, where we can load all invoices where PODs are outstanding and then manually assign them per invoice. And the same process will apply where they are automatically attached to the invoice. Okay. All right. So that's really the very powerful aspect from a sales perspective, is that we're able to now sell items from the mobile application, get the customer to sign and confirm the order, as well as get the customer to sign when we deliver the item. As I mentioned earlier, the same functionality will be coming within the next week or so for invoicing. So we'll be able to invoice customers directly, get them to sign the invoice, and the same process will apply. Okay. Right, so a couple of other features is obviously the ability to do your standard freehand quotes. A newish feature is the ability to, oh, sorry about that. Sample database sometimes gives me some hassles. I'm just going to reload that. Is the ability to associate expense claims, right? So you'll see when we sign into Palladium, it's a standard username and password in terms of user security. I'll show you where the permissions are handled for mobile application now as well. If I just sign in here. You also then have the ability to click remember me. So next time it won't ask me for my login details. And there we go. So from a user rights perspective, if we go to our user in control panel, you'll see that within each user, we have our access rights, and we can drill down to mobile access rights. So your access rights have for mobile are independent of Palladium's access rights. Okay. So if we, as an example, turn off specific features here and say that I'm not allowed to see sales orders or quotes, those icons disappear completely, and I won't be able to use them on Palladium itself. Okay. All right. So from a Salesforce perspective, again, we can process our expense claims where we can manually enter them or take photographs of the expense claims. This is a relatively new feature on Palladium. When setting up users, we actually associate a mobile expense vendor as well. That it's an account that the expenses are claimed against. Okay. Right. Then from your warehousing side or your management side, you'll see now that on the performance dashboard, we would then start populating data with any sales that are made and invoiced out. Excuse the date range in this case. The salesperson locator would just open up a Google map directly within the mobile application. Obviously, because I'm the only administrator in this case, I'm not going to be able to track myself. If we've enabled purchase requisitions, your purchase approvals will sit here. And on the warehousing side, really simply, if we do a purchase order, we're able to GRV into stock, and I'll show you how that integrates with Palladium as well. Let me just close my user manager screen. So if we generate a purchase order, we would select our vendor. Let's just say we're buying from Barclays Bank in this case. We could specify the item or items. I'm just going to change this to inventory items only. Right. Or we were purchasing 13 amp fuse, 5 of them, and the cost is 250 Rand. Right. We would then record that. On the mobile application then, let me just relog onto my mobile here. Give me 1 second. There we go. Right, so on the mobile application, we're then able to go into our goods receiving, and it will bring up all the GRVs that all the purchase orders that are waiting to be GRV'd into stock. So in the ideal world in your warehouse, this should be integrated with the mobile scanner. The moment you scan the items, it would highlight it in green like this. We would then confirm it, and it would become it would be brought into stock. We would obviously then be able to convert the GRV to a purchase invoice on Palladium side. So you'll see that if we go into our purchase invoices and we convert the GRV, it's this one here. It's already been brought into stock, and we can invoice it out. So it's all done through the mobile application. So it's really streamlining the way that your warehouse works. Same thing with our stock accounts. Traditionally, when we did a stock account, we would jump into our inventory and we would either print out a print out a sheet that the staff would go into the warehouse and physically count. We'd manually enter those items and then look at the variance thereafter. You'll see within the mobile application, we've got a stock count option where we'll say, well, this is count 1. We would go and scan the selected bin or the selected location, count the quantity, enter it directly into the mobile application, and in the back office, they would click on download mobile stock count and pull that in automatically. So you're really streamlining that process versus doing it manually as traditionally done. Right, so checking on inventory items, we can either do it by item specifically. So if I select this specific item, the mobile app will then give me a list of the locations and what the quantities available in the location are. Alternatively, we can do inventory inquiries by location, where if I say I'm looking at the warehouse, it'll give us what stock we've got available in each warehouse or each location versus checking individual stock per item. Okay. Right, so on our manufacturing module, we've obviously got the ability to, when we set up a manufacturing job and we transfer jobs from one work center to the next, where we send it from one work center to the next, we've got the ability on the mobile application to do the exact same thing. So if I say transfer jobs, it'll give me a list of jobs that need to be moved. I would then transfer from which station from one station to the next and just click OK. In this case, I've only got the one location, as well as issuing your work in progress. The procurement side, if we've enabled purchase requisitions, and I'll show you where that's done in Palladium. If we go into our control panel and options, right, under our payable section, we've got our enable purchase quote approvals. This will mean that when I generate when I wish to purchase something, I will be unable to create a purchase order. The system will give me an error. I will have to then do a requisition first. Okay. The approvers are set up here where we've got a list of approvers, and you'll see the moment I turn that function on, I'll have the ability to create approvers relevant to the purchasing. So we jump into payables, we turn on purchase quote approvals. Under our approver setup, you'll see that we now can create different approver groups. And these are value-based, and it's also a multi-level approval, right? So if I say the value between 0 and 10,000 Rand, this approver needs to approve it. And we can have a tier from 10,001 Rand to 100,000 Rand. We have a different list of approvers. When you generate a purchase requisition, it will give you a list of available approvers. That would then be required to approve it before it becomes a purchase order. Important to note is only once the last approver within an approval group, if you have multiple, has approved a purchase requisition, will it become a purchase order. Okay. And then you can also specify how they are notified, right? So do you notify approvers simultaneously, all at the same time, or consecutively, where it will go in a specific order? And you'll see that we can actually specify the order of our approvers here as well. Okay. A relatively new feature on the mobile application is also the ability to generate a purchase order, where we can either do it manually, attach an image, or take a photograph. Okay, so if we do it manually, exactly the same process as creating a quote. We add the vendor, add the items we're purchasing. We've got our order details, our vendor information. We can email it out, and again, have the signed off and attached automatically when it syncs with the live system. Then lastly, on the workshop, from a workshop perspective, exactly the same functionality we've got available in Palladium Live, except some of the setup functionality. Your job templates and serviceable item types will always be created in Palladium, but you have the ability to create quotations, process the jobs, issue the inventory out, view the workshop schedule. So it will give you a breakdown of all jobs per week, month, and day. So someone who's managing a workshop is able to view what jobs are in progress or coming up with the schedule. And then lastly, we can also create serviceable items for when a new item comes into to be serviced, essentially. At this point, I'm going to open up just to find out if there's any questions. I think if you type them in the chat, it'll be easy for me to manage, and then I'll try and answer as many of them as I can. Okay, great. So if there are no further questions, we're gonna end the session here. A recording of the session will be made available on our website. I see Eugene's just asked for that, so it will be available on our website. If you have a look tomorrow under the free training page on our site, you click on the exact same event as you did to join today's session, you'll see that the recording will be sitting there. Sure, and if there are any questions, I'll post my email directly in the chat. I'm happy to answer any questions. If anyone would like a personalized demo on mobile, happy to take you through it and show you how it can work within your business. Happy to set up proof of concepts and trials for you guys to test out. But it's essentially, it's every single customer is going this route, and if you don't have mobile already, it's just a matter of time before you do. Right? So thanks a lot for taking the time to join, and hopefully we'll see you in the next session. Thanks.